first things first, we're going to start with a piece of thread. So I'm using a nice dark black thread so that you can see what I'm doing. We've got to pick up, firstly, 6 of these little twin beads here. So you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to slide this on down to the end of our thread, leaving ourselves a little tail of about 20 centimeters or so, but 8 inches, something like that. And that is going to give us enough that we can work with later. So anyway, my thread is coming out of this side just here. We want to turn this into a little circle. So what I'm going to do is loop back around. So I'm coming out of this side here, loop back around, and I'm going to pass through all 6 beads once again and sort of bring it close to being into a circle. Now, because I want to get this nice and firm so that it will be super tight, I'm going to tie these 2 threads together, just like a standard overhand knot, like how you start your shoelaces, left hand over right hand sort of thing, and then just pull that down. As you can see, it's going to just tighten, 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 but the nice thing is, as you tighten this, because it's just a single knot, it will also tighten the thread below. So there you go, that brings that nicely into a little circle like that there. There's one knot, I'm going to tie them together once more, and just pull that nice and tight. Make sure it stays in that same little gap. And there you go. Now we have a nice little double knot, and I have my tail thread. Now this tail thread, we're not going to need it just now. We will be using that one a little bit later, not now. Now that I've got my first little circle, this one is my tail thread, so I'm going to try and keep him out of the way, and I'm going to continue threading through the first 3 beads. So the reason I want to do this is so that I've got one thread at one end and the other thread at the opposite end over here. So there we go. There's that first one, just like that, and that's going to give us our first little beaded circle, little circle of beads. Once we get to this point, we need to add more beads, more circles just like this one, onto the end of our work. So the easiest way to do that is that you jump from the bottom of this bead here. So see how there's a little hole at the bottom and there's a second hole at the top. You can pass into that top hole, pull tight, and you'll see, because I'm using this dark thread so that you guys can see what I'm doing, nicely just here, you can see I've got this little thread that jumps from one to the other. But now my thread is in position out the end of this bead, ready to continue. So the next thing we're going to do is grab 5 beads. Because we're making 6 beads in rings, essentially, this one is already going to become part of our little circle. So this is bead 1, and then we have 5 more, which gives us a total of 6 little beads in total. So if I just rotate that slightly, my thread is exiting from this side. So I want to enter into the other side of that twin bead just here so that I'm coming out where my thread was at the beginning of this step. As I pull that all the way through, keep your tail thread out the way, pull that through, and you'll see that's going to just add a second little circle of beads there. So see, if we can keep that, I'm going to hold my tension nice and firm. In fact, I'm going to turn it over a little so it's a little bit easier for me to hold. Hold that nice and firm, get that tail thread out the way. So I'm exiting from this twin here. So I'm going to go through, if we remember, there was 1 at the bottom, there's 2 on each side, and I want to end up coming out the one on the opposite side. So through 2, then pull that firm, through the third one, which is at the opposite end of our circle, pull it through there, and now we're going to jump from the bottom to the top to bring us out at the very, very end of our second circle. So there we go, there's our first circle done, and then our second one just after, like that there. And if I pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so I'm exiting from this side over here, I'm going to loop around and go all the way through and pull. So there we are. So now, just the same as before, we're going to go through 1, 2, and 3 beads. It might be a little difficult to get to the third one, but we'll go through 2, and then through that one there, and pull tight. So there we go. And now, just as before, we're coming out the bottom hole. We'll stay on the same side of our twin bead and pull through there. So there's that little thread going from one side to the other. And now we have 3 little circles of beads. So this last one here, I'm going to pick up 5 beads once again, but this time it's going to be ever so slightly different. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Go into the opposite side. See, this is where my thread is going. Loop around, pull tight, and there we have it. And now, if you have a little look, what we're going to do this time, instead of going through 3 beads and coming out of this one, we want to move now to our next row. So I'm only going to go through 2 beads, 1 and 2, And now this time, so that we can start adding more beads over here, I'm only going to come into the top hole of this bead here. So the second most one, not the one that's at the very, very end. So the very end one is here. We're coming now through this little fella here. Now, coming out of this corner, we're going to do exactly the same sort of thing, except to move diagonally, I've picked up my 5 beads, and from this one that is on the angle, we're going to loop around through there, pull tight all the way through, and that's going to start the process of adding our next row. So if you have a look, here's our first row here. Now we're going to add our second one on. But this is where things are a little bit different, okay? So if we have a look, this time we're only going to go through the first bead only. So I'm going to rotate it sideways so you can sort of see what I'm doing a bit more. So this is where we've just come from. And now this little bead, this is the first bead that we added in this little group of 5. So if I just go into that little bead just there, we're going to pull nice and tight. By going into that first bead, it gives us something to link into. By the way, if you have a look, see how this bead in the middle is just looped in? Don't worry, just loops back out easily. Whoops, dropped it. And now if you give it a nice pull, that's going to be a nice firm little circle there. So we're exiting from this bead just here, but now what we're going to do is go down the second hole of this bead just here. And this is going to bring us into position. So if you have a look here, each one of these previous circles, see there's a circle there, there's the next circle, and the next, and the next. On this side, they have 1 twin bead, 2 twin beads, and so forth and so forth. So if you have a look on the first circle, if this is the endmost bead here and this is the other end, here is bead number 1 and here's bead number 2. Then if you look at the next circle, here is one end, here's the other. This is bead number 1 and this is bead number 2. Then bead 1 and bead 2, bead 1, bead 2, all the way down. So now what we're going to do is with this bead, we're going to join these two to each other. So the top, this edge of this circle to this edge of this circle. So bead number 2 from this circle is going to join with bead number 1 on this circle. So starting here, we go 1, this is bead 2 and bead number 3. Pull that all the way through so that it's nice and tight. Don't get it caught on your previous rows. And you'll see that's going to give us 3 little beads all nicely joined one to each other. See, 1, 2, and 3. This is the one that was part of this circle that we added just a second ago. And then this one is bead 2 of the previous row, and this one is bead 1 of that other circle. So now, because we want to make circles of 6 beads again, we're going to go, look, this is bead 1, this is bead 2, this is bead 3. Now 4, 5, and 6. So I'm going to pick up 3 beads because that's going to give me a total of 6. 1, 2, 3. Loop around, and to create that circle, we're going to go through 1, 2, and 3. So exactly the same 3 beads that we just went through. So we're going to pull that all the way through. Pull, 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 like that. And there you go. There is your first little group of 6. So now, just the same as before, we're going to go through the first bead that we just added, back down the second hole. We're going to join bead 2 from this circle, which is this one, and then bead 1 from this circle. So go up that edge, into bead 1, into the first bead we added just now. And now as we bring it back, you can see, look, there's 3 little beads all just here, which they sort of curve nicely towards each other, down that one, down this one, and into this next one here. As you pull that tight, look at that, they lock nicely together, ready to add our next group of beads to turn that into a circle. So just the same as before, we're going to pick up 3 beads. We're going to go through those same 3 beads again. And as we pull tight, we're going to create another little circle. What do you think about that, eh? How easy is that? It's clever. It looks so much more complicated than it is. It's just a simple little technique. And now from here, we're going to go back up this bead here. The very first bead that we added in that group of 3 just a second ago. Pull through it. And now, if you have a little look, here's bead 1, here's bead 2, and here's bead 3. Just get that in position. And we're going to go through them. Same again. Like that. You can do them all 3 at once, or you can do them separately. Pull, 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 and get it nice and firm. And there they lock in nicely together. Look at that. Let's now continue. So with this here, I'm going to get myself until I get to the very, very end, which we're almost there. things change a little bit when we get to the end of this row. So now we're going to go back down here exactly the same way through all 3 beads, pull it tight, make that circle, go. See how it's rolled in? Just make sure you roll that bead out through the bottom hole. Same as always, pull it tight and back down the second hole. Then this one here and that one there. Pull that tight. And now we'll add the final group of 3 beads. So let's pick them up. 1, 2, and 3. Goes through there. And now this time, because we want our middle row to be the longest row, we're going to extend this a little. So we're going to go up this bead here, and down this bead, and then into the last little bead. There isn't a third bead here to add on to. So this time, we're now going to need to pick up 4, because if you have a look, we've only got 1 and 2. This little bead is like through the central section. See how we have of our group of 6 here? There's no next circle, so we're going to go from here, and we're going to pick up 4 beads. So if I go 1, 2, 3, 4 beads to end this row, this is going to be bead 5, this is going to be bead 6, loop back in through there, both beads, and that's going to give us a little circle there. Oops, get my tail thread out the way. There we go. A little circle there of 6 beads once again. So there we go. We have 6 beads now at the end of our work, and that's going to sit. See, look, this one is sticking out a little bit extra on this side, sticking out a little bit extra on this side. The reason we want to have that is so that we have a nice pointed central section that we can attach our clasp to. And now we're going to reduce the size of our row to go back and start working in the other direction. So now what we need to do is Jermaine's little cheat method. So this is a clever little idea that Jermaine had, because essentially what we want to do is we want to be coming out like we were before from this bead just here. We want to be coming out, but in this direction, because it means that we can work in the same sort of way as we have been. But the problem is, if we were to weave around, see, look, if you weave through this bead, then this bead, then this bead, when you jump up here, you're going in the wrong direction, and you have to start working backwards. But with Jermaine's cheat method, we can just turn ourselves around, because it's not really possible to turn around otherwise. So what we're going to do is create a little blanket stitch around this thread here, and we're going to use that so that we can then just go back in the opposite direction, and we don't have to worry about trying to wiggle around in whatever direction. So if I just pull, you can see it creates this little loop at the end. If I go back through that loop, I can pull that tight, and that's going to just tie a little knot. Now, the great thing about this knot means that it is now secured between these 2 beads, and I can just weave straight back through my bead in the opposite direction and start working in the other way, and it's none the wiser that I cheated and went the opposite way. So now I can go through that little bead there, pull that up there, pull it all the way tight. We've created this circle. We're going to go back down this little bead just here, and that's going to take us back into the correct direction. So remember how before when I said we were going to end up with our thread coming out this direction? Well, that is a problem no more. We are now back where we want to be. So using that clever little cheat technique, we're now back in position, ready to continue working. And look at this, we're right pointing directly a little bead that we want to connect to. So see that? Isn't that clever? It gets us right where we need it to be. Pull that tight, and now if we pick up, because we've only got 2 beads that we're joining to start with, pick up 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's exactly the same now as how we started this row. So we just pick this up, we're going to go through those 2 beads there, pull that tight, and that's going to give us our 6 beads. And now this is going to look familiar to you. Ready? We go up the first bead, down the next bead, down the same bead, sorry, and through the top hole of this one here, and through the first hole of the next one. Pull that tight, and that's going to bring us the first little bead in our little row. 1, 2, 3... Go through those beads again. If you don't want to do all 3 beads at once, you don't have to. You can just do 2 of them and then go through the 3rd one. In fact, you could even do this as an opportunity to go through the 3rd and 4th ones, so that we're back to the first, coming out of that first bead that we added in this step. And then we go 1, 2, and 3. There we go. So let's pop that one through, and we're almost all done. Up there, down here, and ready. This is our last little one that we need to add in, because we want this row to be shorter than the previous one. Just get that little fella out of the way there. There we go. And now that they're all linked up, here's our last one. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to go down 1, 2, through the 3 beads, and ta-da! All finished. So I'll just secure this one once more, and then I'm going to show you how we finish off. So just weave around these few beads here. There we go. And we will go up into this bead, and what we want to do, where we want to end up now, see how we have this lovely pointed end? We want to end up weaving, so I've just secured this by going round it an extra time. Ta-da, looks lovely. What we want to do is be exiting from this bead here so that we can start adding our clasp. So if we do that, all we have to do, it's nice and simple, is if you have a look, we're going to weave around here, then we're going to come to this bead here, we're going to go up there, then we'll go down this bead, down the hole beside it, and that's going to bring us into this circle, which is this very endmost one. We're going to weave all the way around it. So just very quickly, go 1 through 1 bead, 2, and 3. And then finally, ready? Here it is, that endmost bead into there. And see, we're coming out the bottom. It doesn't matter if you're coming out to the left or coming out to the right. It matters not at all. We're exiting that very, very last bead. And now we can add on our little clasp. So let's add our rose piece on. And I'll turn it upside down for now so that you can see the loop. And what we're going to do, which is very, very quick and very, very simple, is to use a few seed beads. I'm using the silver seed beads here because they are the same metallic sort of color. So I'm going to pick up my needle, if I can get it off the table. Here we go. Pick up 1, 2 little metal-coloured seed beads. See, look, they match quite nicely, don't they? And I'm going to go through my toggle. Just go through there like that. Then I'm going to pick up 2 more. 1, 2. And I'm going to loop around and see how we're exiting out of this side of the twin. We're going to go around this side of the twin. So just pull all the way through, and as we pull that through, tighten, until eventually it's going to give us a really nice little finish there. Now this is not nearly secure enough, but the good thing is these twin beads have relatively large holes, so we can pull that through there, go back through our clasp, you can go down through these seed beads, and into our twin again, and hey, why not, let's do it a third time. Because it's better to be safe than sorry. Through there, through the toggle. Whoops, don't get it caught. Come on, Mr. Thread. It's always just as you're finishing that these things happen, isn't it? There we go. And back down here. And into the twin. See, this is the good thing about using a lovely fine thread like the Spider-Lon, is that when you're going through these sorts of beads, you can go through the holes many times, and it's not going to be a problem. So let's just weave down into there, weave back into our work here, and then we're going to do some blanket stitches to just finish this off. So I'll go through here. Let's put one here, shall we? So just like before, you know how we did our cheeky technique-y, we're going to go underneath this little loop just here, that little bridge of thread, and as we pull that through, we'll go through that loop, pull tight, and that's going to firm that little bit of thread up there. Let's go into the next bead, like so. Weave down here. And let's tie one over here, shall we? Go under there, make a little loop, go through the loop, pull tight, and there's another knot. And then I'll just go through a couple of beads so that I'm coming out somewhere else. Just a few beads, it doesn't need to be many. And now I will grab my scissors. Here we are, my handy dandy little Bead Spider scissors. And I'll come in nice and close. Just give that a snip. And there you have the end of your bracelet all Finished. Looking lovely. And then at this point, you would turn it around, use your tail thread here, weave around until you're exiting from this bead, and you would attach this little piece onto that end so that you end up looking like this. There it is. And you've got a toggle at both ends. You can just feed that straight through. So the clasp itself takes up about 1 inch, by the way. There we are. And there's that lovely little toggle clasp sitting on your wrist, looking spectacular, and then that bracelet is not going anywhere.